Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred We See Died Laughing, and I'm here to partake in another SFF book babbles, or SFF babbles. I'm not sure which one it is, but I will leave the Goodreads group below. This is to do with the SFF BookTube Awards, and there's a few different discussions every week, and I have taken part in one. I didn't do last week's one because I just didn't have the time to film it. I forgot. But this week's is about your favourite fantasy books and just a chance to talk about some of your favourite fantasy books. And I am all for that, so I'm going to talk about some of my favourite fantasy books. So some of these books I have mentioned before, some of them are just, you know, general favourites all round with a lot of people who love fantasy. But one of the first ones that I'm going to talk about is Mark Lawrence's Broken Empire trilogy, which is the Prince of Thorns, the King of Thorns and the Emperor of Thorns. I read these quite a few years ago and they're just really interesting. To be honest, I really love the covers. I love all the covers of this series so much. I just really love it. And it is about a 13-year-old protagonist. He's more of kind of a anti-hero called Jorg, something like that, and he is basically a disgraced prince. Everyone thought he was dead. He basically was thrown into these poisonous thorns when he was about 10 years old, and when he's quite young anyway, and he should have died. He didn't, and he became kind of this horrible person. He is not a nice protagonist. He does terrible things, like really terrible things. He's a murderer, he's a rapist, he is just a scoundrel, he's a robber, he's horrible. You wouldn't want to meet him on a dark night. You wouldn't want to meet him anytime. He's definitely a character you wouldn't want to come to life out of a page. But he's really interesting. He's really dramatic, he's really charismatic, and he's just a character that you love to hate and you hate to love. That kind of this mix of these two feelings, and he's just really interesting to follow. And it's just him trying to get his empire back from his father, trying to make sure that his younger siblings don't inherit the throne that he should inherit, and it goes from there. And over the books he gets a little bit older, he gets a little bit wiser, well, not that much wiser, but, and then he finds out all these different things, and yeah, it's really interesting. I would actually love to go back and reread these series, because when I first read them, I got them from the library, and I got them very sporadically. It was before the time that I was reserving books from my library online. It was before I was using their online system. I'm not sure if they even had their online system set up at the time I was taking out Prince of Thorns. But so it was kind of, I read Prince of Thorns, and then I think it was about, a couple of years later that I read King of Thorns, and then I read Emperor of Thorns another year or so later. And by the time I read by the time I read King of Thorns, I was a little bit confused about what had happened in Prince of Thorns, and I couldn't quite remember. So I would love to go back and read the three of them together, because I think that would work really well. I've also read the follow-up series, which is The Prince of Fools, and I absolutely loved that. I have yet to read The Liar's Key, which is the second book to this. I haven't got around to it yet, but I absolutely love the first book, so I know I'm going to love the second one, and I think the third one is coming out this year. I don't have any of these books physically, and I don't know why. I really need to get them. I keep meaning to get them, and I just don't, but they're really good. I would really recommend people to give them a chance. Don't be too put off by Jorg's horrible persona at first, because you do get used to him. And yeah, so the world is just really interesting, and I would urge people to read it. So yeah. The next one I'm going to talk about is, I've seen it already pop up in a few people's videos, and it's because it's just absolutely amazing. I'm going to hold up the third book because my first one is on loan to someone, and my second one was just too far away from me. This was on top of the shelf, so this is what I grabbed, and it is Republic of Thieves, which is the third book in the Gentleman Bastard series, and the first book is called The Lies of Loch Lamora, and it's basically about a man called Locke and his band of merry gentlemen called the Gentleman Bastards, and they are a little bit like Robin Hood, and they rob from the rich, except they don't give it to the poor, they give it to themselves. And it is just so interesting, and it's so clever, and it's like a plot within a plot within a plot, and you have no idea what's going on, but at the same time you know that something is going on and you really want to figure it out. This is literally with all 3 books. This is not just the first book. All 3 books, there's something going on within another plot and you are just left to try and figure it out, and at the last moment you'll figure it out as the reader, and it's almost like you figure it out kind of almost the exact same time as the person that's being played will figure it out in the book, and you're saying, oh my god, that is so clever. I have no idea the genius of Scott Lynch and how he creates these books, because it's absolutely phenomenal, and every single book so far has been absolutely amazing. They all have absolutely beautiful covers. I adore the cover of this one. This is probably one of my favourite covers of all time. I absolutely love it. But they're all absolutely brilliant. I read them off in the library. I bought all the physical copies of the books that are out at the moment. I will buy the physical copy of the book that is coming out hopefully this year, maybe next year, I'm not quite sure, but they're absolutely phenomenal. Anyone who loves high fantasy should be reading the Gentleman Bastard series, because it's top notch, absolutely top notch. The next book that I'm going to talk about, again, I'm holding up like the last book in the series because I was too lazy to dig down in my shelves and get the first one, and that is Game of Thrones, or The Song of Ice and Fire. And this is a real kind of typical one, but I do really enjoy these books. I've gone off the TV show a little bit because I just didn't like where they were going that much with it, and to be honest, I didn't like the hype around it. When it gets real hype like that and every single episode is spoiled by the time I can watch it, like there's not that much fun in it, and yeah, there's just like so much pressure that I get physically anxious about what is going to happen in every episode, and I don't like that feeling, and I'm quite anxious about the next season because obviously it's going away from the books because the book hasn't been written yet, so I am really scared about what's going to happen in the next season. I'm just going to hope that if anything bad happens, it doesn't happen in the book as well, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to handle that. It's not an experience I'm used to, not knowing what's going to happen when the book is already out, because I usually read the book. Even if I watch the first season or first couple of episodes of a show and I like it, I'll normally go and read the book so I know exactly what happens for the rest of the season. So this is a very new place for me when it comes to TV shows based on books, and I'm not sure what to do. So yeah, but I did watch the first season of Game of Thrones before I read the first book, and I absolutely loved it. I watched it from the first moment it came out. So I started watching Game of Thrones before it became really, really, really popular. And I was telling other people to watch it. I was getting my dad to watch it. I was getting my family. I was getting my boyfriend at the time to watch it. I was getting everyone to watch it because I just thought it was so good. And the ending of the first season, which people know what happens, absolutely gobsmacked me. I did not expect it. So I immediately went to, I think it was HMV. I think it might have been HMV. It was still open at the time, and I went and I got the first book, which is kind of it's the TV series cover, I should say. So it has Sean Bean on it, and I demolished that within a couple of days, and then I didn't buy the rest of the books all at once. I bought them kind of one by one. I really kind of savoured them for ages. And yeah, I just had a really good experience reading those books because I really, I demolished them, but at the same time, I savoured each one because I didn't buy them all at once. I read one, I left it a little while, and then I got the next one, and then I left it a little while, and then I got the next one, and then I think eventually I hadn't read this one, which was the second part of A Dance with Dragons After the Feast. And my brother was reading them, and he was getting closer and closer to this one, and I was like, I can't let my brother finish this, what remains in the series that's published, before I do. So I read this one really quickly then, and now I'm just waiting for the next one, and I'm going to reread the whole series when we get a published date, an official published date for Winds of Winter. I will spend the month before that, because I'm a pretty fast reader, so I think it will only take me a month, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to be too cocky about it, but I think it will only take me a month to read the whole series as it is at the moment, before Winds of Winter, if we ever get a publishing date for Winds of Winter. But yeah, it's a good book, no matter what people say about the show or whatever. The books are pretty good. I like them. The next book I'm going to talk about is the Eragon series, and I'm holding up Brazinger, which is the third book. And again, beautiful covers in these ones. I love these covers, and yeah, these are just ones that I have really fond memories of. These are another one that me and my brother used to read together, And I think we got them from the library at first, and we loved them. I mean, the dragons, you know, elvish, learning to fight like an elf, learning to ride dragons, speaking with dragons, like that is just all a kid's dream. And I must have been about a teenager. I must have been 14, 15, 16 maybe when these came out, when we started to read them. And my brother would have been much younger. He would have been like 9 or 10 maybe when the first ones came out, when we read them. And I remember we went to see the film with my mum, and my mum isn't really she doesn't really go to cinema, she doesn't really watch movies, she's not a movie person. But she went and brought us to see Eragon when it came out, and while we liked it, we weren't mad about it, but it was great to be able to go with my brother to see these movies, or to see this movie, and we were able to talk about it because we knew we both had read the first book, we both were really passionate about it. And my brother is rereading Eragon at the moment, and it's just that little thing that we share, I think, which is really nice for us. And yeah, so I do have really fond memories of this book. And yeah, this is a series that ultimately I think it disappointed me a little bit at the end, but again, it's another one that I want to reread at some point this year and see how I feel about a second reread of the whole series. But again, it's really, really great. Yeah, I mean, dragons, it has dragons in it, that's all you need to know. I love it. And the next book I'm going to briefly talk about is actually The Lord of the Rings, which is typical. I mean, talking about fantasy, Lord of the Rings, yeah. I did watch all of the movies before I watched Lord of the Rings, or before I read Lord of the Rings, and I'm kind of glad I did in the end, because yeah, I was young enough when the movies came out, and I was about 12 when I think Two Towers was out, so I was about 13 or 14. I could have been younger when the Return of the King came out, I'm not 100% sure now, but I did go. I have really fond memories of reading the books, and I used to get them from the library. I do have a bind up of all of it somewhere in this house, and I can't remember where I put it. I must have put it somewhere and I can't remember, but it's a really ugly bind up, so it's just like one I think my dad got in a charity shop, so I don't really like it. I want to get like a nicer versions for myself, for like kind of collector's items or something. But yeah, moving on. I used to read them. Obviously the 3 books are split into 3, but then those books, the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King, they're also split up into 3. So I used to read them split up into 3, and I used to get the 3 of them of each out of the library at the same time. So I'd get the 3 sections of the Fellowship of the Ring, read those, get the 3 sections of the Two Towers, read those, and get 3 sections of the Return of the King. And I really, really love that. I just have this memory of reading. It would have been one of the Return of the Kings, because it was when Sam and Frodo were in Shelob's cave, and it was, yeah, I think it was Sam was exploring Shelob's cave and he was trying to save Frodo, and I was reading up in my mum and dad's house up in Donegal, which is up the north of Ireland. It's kind of the countryside, and I was reading on the step, and I was outside. It was probably around August, and I must have been about 15, I think I was 15, and I remember reading there, and I was in the back, I had the sun shining on me, it was absolutely beautiful, but I wasn't there. I was in the caves. I was in the dusty, murky caves of Shelob's lair. I was with Sam while he tried to save Frodo. I was there when he was fighting the orcs with Sting. I just remember this day so clearly, this moment in time when I was with Sam, helping him save Frodo, reading this book, and it's just a really great memory of me and my reading life, and being able to think back at that time and how immersed I was in the book. And it's just one of those weird Lord of the Rings memories I have, and I just really, really love it. And again, the power of reading, that it can transport you, you know, we don't have portals, we don't have those instant, you know, apparitions the way we can, apparating the way there is in Harry Potter, but in a way I think reading is a portal, because somehow I transported into Middle Earth that day, and you know, fortunately I had to come back, but anytime I want to go back I can just, you know, open up the book and I'll be there. So yeah. But yeah, so those are a few of my favourite fantasy books, and a few memories to go along with some of them as well. And I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope I didn't bore you too much with those stories, and yeah, I'll see you guys again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.